Well, now you got into this mess by going down a waterfall. Now, how would you suppose we can get them out of there?
By going up the waterfall?
That's right. Anything's possible in Disneyland.
Welcome, friends. I feel like I say that exactly the same every time. It's just what I do. Welcome, friends, to episode 18 of Up the Waterfall podcast.
That's right.
Our podcast is now able to vote and get drafted.
Okay.
Just kidding. It would be years, and we have not done that for 18 years. Anyway, I am your host, Zanna and Mrs. Scott Otis.
Hello.
And here we take a journey up the waterfall of Disney parks history and all that good stuff. Nostalgia with a present day outlook.
Interesting.
So we're not all about the past, as this episode will show you. We want to thank you, of course, for joining us today. And this may be a controversial episode.
Oh my.
Because it is going to be top 10 or top 5. We'll see how it ends up. Disney hits or misses.
Ooh,
and I
what
think,
a broad topic.
Yeah, I think we were throwing around ideas, and I think we decided that this particular episode, both of us kind of veered toward Disney parks hits or misses, not specifically attractions or something, which we, of course, have already done. But just like concepts, releases, things like that have affected Disney parks in the past and recent past.
Mm-hmm.
In the future, we may do something like, the Walt Disney Company in general, hits and misses, etc.
Or we could even do Disney World specific.
Right, Disney World specifically, Disneyland specifically. So
I would be interested in delving into these.
The topics are endless.
Yes.
So this first venture into this topic will be, as I said, Disney parks related,
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily one coast or the other, because a lot of them are, I think, across both. I don't know what your list is, but we each have 5 hits and 5 misses. We'll see how many we get to. I don't want this to be a 2-hour episode.
We can try to go through them quickly to get through.
And some of them might be the same.
Eventually be 20. I do have backups.
Oh, you always have backups. I'm like always trying to come up with things, but you have all the facts and figures knowledge that I don't have. Oh. So do you want to go first, or do you want me to jump in? Beauty
before lack of brains.
Wait, I think that means
you should go first because you have the beauty and the brains.
I don't know about that. Okay, well, the first hit for me is very basic and very broad, and I think pretty obvious too, which would be Imagineering.
Ooh,
as a concept.
That's a good one.
As a entity, I guess you could say.
I would say the Disney parks would not be what they are without Imagineering.
Right. And what year did they start?
52.
Right. So this was, obviously right before Disneyland was created. This is, I'm sure everyone watching this or listening to this has seen the Imagineering story on Disney Plus.
Oh, yeah.
Or
beautiful.
Has a basic knowledge of how Disneyland was created. And it certainly would not have come to pass without Imagineering having been started.
Yeah.
All of those interesting research and development labs, the creative minds behind, how do we make these attractions work? How do we make audio-animatronics, which didn't really exist?
Yeah, I mean, it really started with Walt. He was toying with the idea of starting up a park, and he basically picked his artists for his from his studio to help him, and basically drafted them to join this new entity that was going to create this park that he was noodling around upstairs, and he basically started Imagineering that way, and they basically came up with all the story ideas and all of the creative ideas for the attractions and audio-animatronics and everything.
And it certainly has changed.
It's developed, yes.
Over time. Obviously, I think nowadays we know a lot more about Imagineering when it first started because so many people have told their stories and there have been, countless books and now TV shows, etc. on them. But I think nowadays Imagineering has so many different layers to it, having to do with budgets and, what people want as far as successful
There's so many different
things.
Realms within Imagineering. Certainly there's the creative side versus the the numbers side, but also there are sides that we don't even know about. There are folks who basically plan decades in the future as to not exactly, but but what they're planning to do, as well as they do architecture and drafting and basically just tons of. I guess they say there's 140 different disciplines within Imagineering, but
wow,
it's just amazing all of the totally different things that we often don't think about.
Yeah, and so many of the tasks then that have to come to life to make something happen may not even be under the Imagineering umbrella. They might just be independent contractors or other departments that jump in and do something.
Yeah.
But regardless, Imagineering is kind of the big hit of Disney parks in general.
I would say that's
and
a
what
huge hit.
Sets it apart, I think, from any other theme park. Yes.
I would agree.
It's not really going out on a limb to say that.
Well, I was going to say, should we go hit and then miss, or do you want to go
let's
hit,
do it that way so we can
all right.
go on a roller coaster ride of emotions.
Yeah, I would say that my first one was also, just like yours, a very broad concept, but also one that's undoubtedly super important to the parks. And I would say a huge hit in Disney parks history would be audio-animatronics.
Oh,
would you agree?
You narrowed it down from within Imagineering. Yes. No, I agree.
And it actually did not start with the parks. The first official audio animatronics that appeared in the parks were when the Tiki Birds, when the Tiki Bird attraction came out. I remember when I was growing up, I thought Jungle Cruise premiered opening day at Disneyland. Aren't those audio animatronics, like the little alligators and other critters that they had? And those actually weren't. Those were very rudimentary critters whose mouths would either just go up and down, or they would be on a turntable rotating in a circle, which I guess.
And they weren't singing songs to us like the birds.
Yeah, they've become much more advanced even in that time. But if you think about all of the attractions, the really great attractions, a lot of them have audio animatronics. I would say, certainly Pirates of the Caribbean and the Haunted Mansion, and even the old World of Motion. If you think about that,
it really is the way to tell a story, whether that story is fictionalized with talking and singing birds or other animals or creatures, or representations of humans, so we can certainly identify it with that. I think that's what was so great about World of Motion, is that we could see ourselves in the past and things like that and really identify with it.
Yeah. I would say, President Lincoln was a big part of that. That was the first human audio animatronic, and that certainly then went into things like Carousel Progress and all other things. If you think about even just the evolution of them and how they've grown to just be so realistic these days. Remember the Witch of the West in the Great Movie Ride. And even now with the new Rise of the Resistance, I won't give anything away for those who have not experienced it, but there are some audio animatronics in there that are pretty amazing as well.
I actually think the Na'vi River Journey River Shaman is more advanced, personally, than the Rise of the Resistance.
Yeah, there was a time, actually, just before all of this, where Disney was kind of getting away from audio animatronics and starting to do more things that didn't require that. And even if you think about it, when the Spaceship Earth one, the one that a lot of people think is Steve Jobs, that is not an audio animatronic.
Yeah, he doesn't really do anything.
He just kind of sits there. And so you would think that kind of like when that premiered, they could have added more audio animatronics.
Yeah.
And, there are times when they got away from that, things like Soren and other things like that.
I mean, I'm sure even, as we've seen when the Navi River journey first opened, it would break down.
Yeah.
And it's just constantly an issue. There's so many moving parts and servos
Absolutely.
and all of these little electric things.
I just thought of another one, by the way. The new Smuggler's Run attraction.
Oh, yeah. See, that's another.
What's
the
his
Hondo
name?
Onaka
Yeah.
is, I think,
Oh, my gosh.
very Navi River journey
That's
level.
just spectacular. So,
Yeah,
back
so
into it.
I think it definitely should be. I think that puts you into the story, one more level versus a projection or something like that. But of course, I don't really know a lot about animatronics as far as the mechanical,
Yeah, it used to be they used to
goings-on.
use fluids and all of that just to basically hydraulics to kind of control, a wing flap or whatever.
Yeah.
Open of the mouth, but it also had to do with the audio part of that as well.
Yeah.
So it was basically intertwined, and so I really like it. More audio animatronics, please.
Yes, please.
So what's
All right.
next on your list, or do you
So
now want to?
we're
go
doing
to
a miss now.
I guess so.
Here comes the controversial part,
Yikes.
folks. Okay. My first one is FastPass.
Ooh.
Sorry. Please direct all hate mail to otisney at
Wait, what?
twitter.com. Just kidding. So FastPass debuted in 1999.
That's right.
And I just want to say, a disclaimer. It is good in theory. The concept of FastPass, being able to reserve a time to come back so that you're not spending 3 hours in line, is a good concept. However, I think there's just like one more level of figuring out that they need to do to get it to a successful.
I would agree.
I mean, some things it works great, yes, but when you get a new e-ticket ride or even an existing e-ticket ride, it's so difficult to get those fast passes. And then as a result, if you don't have one, which as locals, a lot of us, I'll get into that in a second. But if you don't get that, then the standby alternative is kind of insane.
Yes.
Which there's arguments for both sides. Like, well, if there wasn't FastPass, then the standby lines would be even longer because everyone would be in it.
Right. But in my view, the queue was meant to be part of the attraction.
Right.
It used to be the Imagineers would make it so that what was going on in the queue while you were waiting for the main attraction was part of the attraction.
Yeah.
And they've done exceptional jobs at doing that in places such as Expedition Everest.
Mm-hmm.
Also,
Voyage of the Little Mermaid. I'm sure
Voyage
that's
of
not
the
what you were
Little
thinking of.
Mermaid
But
in Florida. I was going to say the Flight Passage at
oh yeah,
Animal Kingdom. There's so many examples of where the queue is such an integral part of the story.
right.
That actually going through the FastPass queue is actually almost you're doing yourself a disservice. All these people are planning for their vacations, but then when they get there, they're like, we got to get from
Right,
attraction
and
to attraction
I
to
think-
attraction, and it actually the journey is part of it. Stopping to smell the roses.
Right. And I think that's a major component of this argument, is because there are so many different types of park goers and Disney vacationers.
Yes.
There are those that, they come once a year or once every 5 years or once in a lifetime even, and they want to make sure they see it all. And sometimes the only way to do that is be right on the ball at the 60-day mark or whatever, and the 180-day mark to get your reservations for dining and all of this stuff that involves so much planning and scheduling that for other people that either, like you say, are purists and want to appreciate the attraction as it was intended, not do a bypass and cut off half of the queue area, or like myself, locals that may on a whim say, hey, let's go to a park and go on a ride. And then you get to a park and you can't go on any rides because there's, a 120-minute wait and there's no fast passes, of course, the day of. There are, times when you'll get lucky and get one.
Yeah.
But it's really and truly has changed the way that you go to a park and the way that you
has.
experience a park. I'm not 100% sure that it is all positive. So that's why it's on my misses.
That's a very good point. It used to be that you just would go to an attraction and there would be queues or lines and you would just get in them, and that's just the way it was. Disney's, I think it's become so popular.
Right. And that's the thing too.
They're trying to come up with ways to make it easier.
Yeah, they're trying to spread people out, siphon people off, and I think that's what some of the other things that are on my lists will speak to that also, just different activities. I was going to add
one point to that. I guess you could say also is that if there are people have virtual spots in the queue having a FastPass, they are not physically in the queue, and that means they're somewhere else. And now you know that has led to there being crowd issues, like in places such as Disneyland.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that leads to the newest form of a FastPass, which is, of course, the virtual queue boarding group situations involved with Rise of the Resistance.
They even kind of started that with, I guess, Dumbo. Remember?
Yeah, that's true. But first of all, Dumbo, they added 2 Dumbos here and then added that whole situation. And there was never really a huge line after that that I saw.
Just because they doubled the capacity.
And I get that, putting in a playground is like a completely different, you can't do that for every ride.
That is true.
And I certainly, when Gio was smaller, we would just go in the playground and, I don't know. It's a whole separate thing. But I think the virtual queue idea is a good one. I don't think it is currently being executed.
Yeah, because think of all the cast members that have to now get to work at 2 a.m. or so.
Yeah, and anyone
man that attraction.
Right, and anyone that wants to attempt to get on the ride 4, 5, 6 hours later has to be there right when the park opens with everyone in your group that's going to be on the ride with you, and trying to, on your phone, on your app, get a boarding group. And that's still not a guarantee that you will get on the ride, because it will break down. They won't get to all the boarding groups.
There are people who get right into the park, and then right at the moment that those the virtual queue is opened, they can get their spot, and they're in queue number 100 or whatever.
Yeah, so, I mean, I've been there right at 7 a.m. when it's turned on and gotten 64 or 63 or something like that. So it's kind of crazy.
It's just the demand is so high.
Yeah, and I realize that it's a giant experiment, because they couldn't test this out any other way than to just do it this way. You can't just open the ride and be like, okay, everyone go, because the other situation of having, 10-hour queues, like waiting out, people camping outside of the park, and then waiting in line for 10 hours is kind of ridiculous too. So there does have to be a happy medium. I understand that they're trying to figure that out. I do just wish that there was some way to not penalize people that don't or cannot plan as far enough ahead as those who maybe are staying on property or, actually plan things out. Especially for you as a cast member, not everyone in the family has an annual pass, so you have to be able to. You're the only one that can make fast passes for some people in the family. Yeah,
and I can't even get into some places.
Yeah, so that's another whole thing. But it's not an easy just let me look on my app and see if I can get 5 fast passes for anything.
That's right.
It's a whole ordeal. So, I think the concept is good. The execution could use some tweaking in 2020, perhaps. Yeah. Maybe we'll see that. So,
all right.
What's your first miss?
My first miss is kind of the overall shortening of attractions. And this kind of comes into 2 formats. Taking existing attractions and cutting them, or just the overall, a lot of the new attractions just aren't as long of an experience as a lot of the older ones.
This is why I like doing this with you, because you always come up with these very unique things that I would never have thought of.
If you think about some of the existing attractions, like the Country Bear Jamboree,
yes,
the Enchanted Tiki Room, a lot of these have been just classic Disney attractions that, for some reason or another, Disney has just decided to go in there and just chop. and just to make them shorter.
Yeah, just crowd control, moving people through.
Right. Another one is the Voyage of the Little Mermaid at the Studios attraction. That one is just a shell of what it used to be.
Oh, the live action puppet situation? Yes, okay.
Yeah, so these are some examples, and I guess they chalk it up to that people just have shorter attention spans.
But do they have shorter, this is an argument of mine for years, do they have shorter attention spans, or are we giving them shorter attention spans by, it's kind of like the app versus the kid playing. Do you create tablet games and all this stuff because people can't pay attention or sit through a queue, or can they not do that because they have all this stuff?
I think that the Imagineers have enough imagination and the wherewithal to create an attraction that people will enjoy for a small amount of time as well as a long amount of time. I mean, if you think about it, there are some really great attractions, American Adventure, that are just, they're long. But, I mean, if you think about it, even...
that theater is usually not crowded.
Well, not a lot of times not when we're there.
Yeah.
Sometimes during the days.
I suppose.
Longer days, summer days, absolutely it is. But I was even going to say, if you think about the old studio tour, they created an attraction that would be multiple hours.
Yeah.
So they have it within them to do that. But I remember when I worked at Epcot, and a lot of the guests would come up and ask me, how long is Horizons or World of Motion? It used to be my standard answer for all of them, and it seemed like all of them were like about 18 minutes long. Spaceship Earth, Journey into Imagination, Horizons, World of Motion, yeah. All of them were right around that 18-minute mark, and it was like, that's a really good amount. That's almost perfect. And they've just come out with a lot of attractions that are just short.
Yeah, I mean, even
shorter.
The Flight of Passage, which is a great attraction as far as experience goes. A lot of people don't like it as much as you do, and I do. But because it's like screens and it's just, not a very audio-animatronic, dark ride-filled kind of experience. But that's pretty short also.
Yes, it is.
But
I would say they have gotten back to it with the Rise of the Resistance. That's a long...
multi-part experience.
And I'm thankful for that. But, even just a lot of the movies or shows that they come out. I mean, O Canada, that's another one. Where it used to be a lot longer, and it's a lot shorter now. Wonders China. It'll be interesting when that one finally comes out to see how chopped that one is as well.
On the same topic, Defunctland on Twitter recently, just today or yesterday, I think, was commenting that it will be interesting to see how Rise of the Resistance changes over the next 30 years. Like, will it suddenly become like, the doors are just open and you don't have cast members that are part of the story anymore?
Even in Smuggler's Run, there is one door that's meant to be closed at all times that is now open. So that one's already kind of gone to a point where... Come on.
And that's goes back to the different types of park goers. There's people that just come in and demand and want to do as much as possible and don't really savor what is in front of them and just want quick and fast and now.
That's right.
What are you going to do?
All right.
Oh, we're going back
Let's go back to hits.
Hits, okay.
We're going to kind of go back and forth.
Well... since you have some backups, I think I might combine two of mine.
Uh-oh.
Because my next one was going to be Monorails. And my one after that was going to be on-site hotels.
Oh, boy.
As a concept. But I think I can combine...
Interesting how you combine
Well, because the monorails were a main, mode of transportation to get to the original... hotels when the park opened in 1971. And now we call them monorail hotels, but when the place first opened, they were just, the only hotels. But I think doing that, of course, in Disneyland, there was the Disneyland Hotel, but it definitely wasn't an original thing. It was owned by different people. And
it was owned by different people. It was definitely always associated with Disneyland, and very quickly the monorail that premiered there in 1959 was quickly added as a stop to the Disneyland Hotel. But it was always considered an attraction there. more than a mode of transportation for those hotel guests.
Well, anyway, I just think that it was a brilliant idea to say, hey, let's put hotels here so that they don't have to drive from far away. They're already here. We've got them as far as, marketing goes and merchandising and shopping and dining and all of that fun stuff. I think that was a brilliant idea, which has certainly been mimicked in other area theme parks. Universal now has, very many on-site hotels, some further away than others, but they're great. It's a great way to do a different theme that you may not have like a land for this in the theme parks, but you can have a themed area in the hotel. You're laughing at me. What?
I think it's just because I think you took two off of my list.
Oh, well, we're all combining.
It's all fun.
Prevent us from having a 2-hour show.
I can add to this.
But I think also Legoland Florida, which, as you know, I love, talked about it a few times, has done this as well. And I think that has led to their success because it's not right in Orlando. It's in Winter Haven, which is a little like right around an hour away from where we are right now in Orlando. But they've done these amazing, like the Legoland Hotel, the beach retreat, little cottages, the bungalows. Right. And now they're doing the pirate themed resort as well. And they have a ton of like visitors from the UK and things like that. Yeah. And their hotels all include breakfast. So it really is like a whole concept that I think Disney is certainly can take credit for, and having them be themed, not just a hotel, a generic bland hotel that you can go sleep at and be near to a park. But
so you're including basically all the themed hotels within Disney World?
Yeah.
Okay.
Why are you?
No, because they have done that very well. They've taken just a lot of amazing themes and created great hotels based on that. If you think about even both the yacht and beach club, and even just the differences between the two.
Yeah.
The one's the kind of the seaside of like
Cape
Newport.
May,
I was going to say, one's Cape May, New Jersey.
Beach club, yeah.
One's up like the yacht club would be more like Newport, Rhode Island. So just
and they all, for the most part, except for maybe the value resorts, which their story is evident on the buildings, but they all have a backstory, which is what sets Disney apart in most things. Is that they all have a story to them. I think after I recently did a resort showcase tour, and we heard the little story of the yacht club, which I knew, of course, but I hadn't heard in a while. And the girl giving the tour was like, I never knew that until I started working here. So it is kind of crazy how, like, back in the day, really like in the 80s and 90s when they were doing these new things, everything had, like Pleasure Island and all that stuff, had a story. So, you weren't just walking into a hotel. You were walking into a specific thing that this guy had built for everyone to enjoy and, all this kind of stuff. So
right. I would say some do it better than others.
Yes.
But that's totally fine. I mean, like Animal Kingdom Lodge, Wilderness Lodge, the Polynesian Village are like some of the more exceptional examples of those. But good one. Yeah.
And the monorail, you just throw in because that's a cool concept. Moving people around in an efficient way for the most part. We need an update to ours. I think it's happening at some point.
Yes.
But yeah, it's a great mode of transportation.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll use that to bump into one of mine.
Okay.
Which is basically, it includes the monorail. It's basically all of the modes of transportation.
I thought you might do that
Disney
one.
uses. And I would say chief among them is the monorail. I mean, the monorail is just such an iconic Disney thing, and it wasn't originally Disney. Disney actually discovered it as the Alweg company in Germany. He just spotted that, and he told his Imagineers, "Let's put that at Disneyland." So, but if you think about even just the contemporary hotel and the monorail gliding through that is such an iconic image.
Yeah, and
okay, no, you go.
No, it's just it's very unique and
yes. But Disney has done quite a bit more. Certainly with Disney World, a lot of the water transportations, the boats that they take passengers across Bay Lake, or I guess Seven Seas Lagoon, but also through Bay Lake to get to all of the different hotels. Fort Wilderness, Wilderness Lodge, but even the new Skyliner.
That's right.
All right. And yes, and they have certainly perfected the parking tram. That's not the most sexy of all of the.
It used to be one of my
systems,
favorites
but
when I was little, and we'd actually park and take one.
But like,
nowadays, we mostly just walk, even
right.
if we're in a parking
The ones
lot.
at Disneyland are really cool because they run off of.
Yes.
I can't remember what they run off of, but they're a lot quieter.
Yes.
I know
Ours
the ones
can't
that
make it up the hill.
Yeah, there's that one hill in the Magic Kingdom parking lot that they need it to be gas powered for that reason.
But I think we will definitely do future episodes on either individual modes of transportation or transportation as a whole.
Right. But then I would also say that Disney World certainly has used the motor coach as a way to get people around.
Yeah.
It's not the most fun, but they've tried to make it more fun by having fun images on the side.
Yeah, they really are making improvements, and those new buses all have, we learned this at the Resort Showcase, Wi-Fi and little USB charging ports, like every couple of seats.
I mean, they are kind of the workhorses of the the transportation system, but they do what they do.
Yeah.
And I would you could even lump in the monorail at Tokyo. There are buses at Tokyo as well that get from the Ambassador Hotel to the two parks there, but then also there are motor coaches at in Paris as well, and even a subway system at Hong Kong, which is a way to get from the Hong Kong airport to the Hong Kong resort. So.
And really what all of this on-site transportation has done is taken you out of the, Mr. Wheeler, that goofy thing, Mr. Wheeler, with the
Mr. Geef.
With the road rage that may occur by driving to various places and parking right next to the park or something like that. It's taken you out of that and immersed you into, the buses aren't a great immersion, but the characters, like you said, and they always have music playing on them. And when I was little, I really loved taking Disney buses with the little green flag or the red flag or whatever to go to the treehouse villas and the vacation villas and all that stuff.
The brown flag.
Yeah.
I remember those were great.
But now, as we've said a few times, it's grown so much. There's been no choice but to add more. Yeah.
But the Skyliner, the recent edition, is a very nice touch.
Yes. It is
I
fun.
like that. So, all right. Let's go into another miss.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, let's see. Keeping with the controversial topics, if people are listening and are out-of-town planners and vacationers, they may not appreciate this, but the dining plan, in my opinion, is a miss.
Please explain. For
guests of the park that maybe are not having a huge package and staying on site, which, we are a good number of people leading to park, profits and stuff like that. Not, I guess, the main component, because why would they do it otherwise? Anyway, my point is that when the dining plan happened, it really, really changed the way vacations were purchased and really changed the dining, like the restaurants, the way chefs created new dishes, the way menus were now written and created and all that fun stuff. Because if people were getting free dining, then you don't want to give them all of the things that they were doing, all of the expensive and costly menu items that, people were paying for on their own. But if it's included in this free dining plan, maybe that they don't want that to be included. So things would be changed and menus, would be kind of rewritten. I think in the dining plan began in 2005. And I think,
I'm not sure.
Yeah, 2005. We're only just in the past few years, I think, recovering from that. And chefs are finally like, look, we're going to do what we want to do. And we're going to create things because that is something that people actually care about and want to come to these restaurants. And the dining plan people will do dining plan things. But
yes, they will.
It definitely made me miss the food and fun card. Do you remember that?
I do.
Which was a card that you could buy for something like $50 or $55 a person. And it basically gave you 3 meals and then a specific thing like an appetizer, an entree, a dessert, and a non-alcoholic beverage. And you could also partake in the fun, which
That's
was
right.
like getting to do boats.
Yeah,
and that's
recreation,
the only reason that we ever
water
did
race or
like
whatever.
the little water sprites and all this stuff was because we had the food and fun card.
Yeah.
And it was included in it, which I think was a really great thing. But, you know, more people come, you can't really have the food and fun card and still make profits like they do now, I guess.
Yep.
It also reminded me of the Gold Key Club, which I had to look up. I've talked about that before. It's on my blog. When we went to and stayed at the villas, we had the Gold Key card. And that's why we went to the Gulf Coast Room.
Fancy.
And the Empress Lily and all of that stuff. Ooh. Because it basically gave you like 3 meals a day. We were like so stuffed.
That's also a problem with the dining plan is that.
Well, yeah, but they do have different levels, so you can just
yes.
do the quick serve or the snacks or whatever. But people are always talking like on message boards and stuff like how they have leftover snacks and they're buying like 5 things of popcorn on their last day and stuff. But what the Gold Key thing included was 5 nights in the Contemporary Tower or a 2-bedroom vacation villa, treehouse villa, or fairway villa.
Oh.
That's why we stayed there. We did this plan.
Wow.
6 days use of the transportation system.
Yay.
6 days admission and unlimited use of all attractions at Magic Kingdom.
And Epcot. Or is that even before Epcot?
No, it was. They just hadn't put it on there. And then all Walt Disney World recreational activities and facilities. Like we rented a pontoon boat one time, I remember, and that was the only reason why. And then breakfast, lunch, and dinner at any Walt Disney World restaurant or dinner show. That's why we went to the top of the world, was because of this Gold Key thing. For 6 days, excludes fast food locations. So we didn't go to the Electric Umbrella because it wasn't part of the thing.
That's awesome.
And the prices were this was in 1982, starting at $568 for each adult. So
okay, but that included the hotel and the admission. So yeah. It's amazing. I
know. I miss it. But I mean, you can get like the premier or whatever premium dining plan. But anyway, my point was, I think it was really kind of a downturn as far as dining goes. Yeah. But like I said, they're really
the menus and all that. So.
Yeah, they are making up for it now. There's lots of interesting things happening, and the dining plan is still around. So maybe it is a hit. I don't know.
Well, maybe it's a miss that's going to turn into a hit.
Yeah. But
all right. Okay.
Anyway.
Well, for my next miss, I would say it's the general homogenization of the theme parks. I might have stolen one.
Mass homogenization of parks. Literally the same terminology.
Let's combine this. Okay, we both apparently had this on our list. But yeah, there are times when Disney is putting a lot of the same things at different locations or in their properties around the world to make it, I guess, to give each park the same experience. Whereas I actually prefer when they don't do that.
Yeah.
It gives us a reason to go to all of these locations. Or even just if we can't see them, then we get to hear about them and strive to get there.
Yeah.
I would say a perfect example of them doing this is Batu.
Yes.
Which is a giant land. The largest expansion in theme park history, right? And they're adding a couple of attractions in each. And it's, there are some minor differences. The approach areas, as well as, colored differences. But it's generally the same land in both locations, which is a reason to not go overseas. Would you like to expand
Well,
on that?
yeah, I was going to say that I think it definitely started happening with the newer e-ticket attractions, which granted Pandora and Animal Kingdom on a whole only exists here. Epcot only exists here. But there are different ride systems that are the same thing, like Test Track and the Cars Radiator Springs Racers.
Right. They're the same system, but different tracks.
Right. Same system, different tracks. Indiana Jones, Dinosaur is the same.
Indiana Jones and Dinosaur are the exact same layout.
Yeah. But I think Indiana Jones
attractions.
does make it worth going to because it is different.
Right.
But as time went on into the early 2010s, I guess, is when things really started to change over. And you would get, even just the shopping bags would not say Disneyland anymore. It was just Disney parks and all of that. And I think the marketing, like growing up here, I never saw advertisements for Disneyland. I never heard about Disneyland. Granted, times have changed. There's the internet and all that stuff. Right. But it wasn't a thing. It was just like Disneyland was its own thing. It was a locals park for the most part. International people coming from the other direction could go there. People from the Midwest over would go there, perhaps. Yep. Walt Disney World was always like the international park that was advertised everywhere because it was bigger. There was, more space, etc. But somewhere along the line, they were like, hey, we can market both of these things to everyone. And that, of course, made Disneyland a lot more crowded. Yeah. And, things like that. And made these changes. Like, I don't think, Batuu was needed in Disneyland. Will everyone that's there appreciate it? Sure. But at what cost? Yeah.
I mean, there have been some really big examples where they haven't done this, as you mentioned, Pandora, as well as Cars Land out at California. But even like if you take rides such as Big Thunder Mountain, Splash Mountain, they have, even Pirates of the Caribbean, they do have those versions all throughout the world, but they're all different.
Yeah.
They have minor differences, or even a lot of times major differences. I think another example of something that's exactly the same is the Little Mermaid attraction, which is at both California Adventure as well as the Magic Kingdom. Other than the queue area,
right
at the Magic Kingdom, which is far superior, the ride is the exact same.
Yeah, and I think when they first announced that they were building that, like we were all hoping like, oh, it's going to be different over here, but it wasn't because obviously it's cheaper and more, easier to do to make it exactly the same.
Right. So I mean, I just really like differences. I remember when they opened Tokyo Disney Sea, everything that opened with the park was absolutely completely different. There was only one exception, and that was their Indiana Jones attraction, which had a different theme. Instead of Indiana Jones and the what was it, Temple of the Forbidden Eye, it was I can't remember. It was the name of the same name as the last movie. The
Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. They had it was a whole different theme. The ride, it was the same vehicle, same layout, but a whole different theme. So, I mean, even that's a pretty big difference. But everything else in that entire park was brand new. So, yeah.
Yeah,
I agree. I like different things. And I guess another an upcoming example is the Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway that they are now doing at both Disneyland and Disney World. So
it really is interesting that that's the path that they're going down. And I'm sure there's been lots of studies and, all sorts of accounting and whatever else brainstorming to say this is why we're doing this and it's a good thing.
Yeah. Ratatouille.
Yeah, Ratatouille. I mean, it would have been a perfect chance for them to switch it up because it's going, Ratatouille, the original Remy ride, is in France, obviously. But here it's in the France Pavilion, and they certainly could have changed something about it.
I mean, we haven't seen it yet, so maybe there will be changes, but probably not. I mean, actually, if you think about it, the Toy Story Midway Mania was the first attraction that they actually did the planning for both Disneyland's and Disney World's, both at the exact same time, all to open at the same time. So.
I still have never been on the one in Disneyland.
I think
their line is always longer traditionally, so I've just been like, meh.
The layout, where physically the cars go, that layout is different.
Oh,
but
really?
the screens that you see are the same.
I would never notice that, probably.
Yeah, okay.
So, yeah. Oh, well.
Okay. So let's go to another hit,
Another hit?
Yeah.
Okay, well, this is going to be a quick one.
Okay. We need a couple of quick ones.
D23.
Ooh, good one.
I think it's a hit.
That wasn't even on my list, and it should have been.
That's back here, as that was my one prop, was adding the D23 Expo thing. We've talked about it before in the very first episode, which you can listen to or watch right now. No, wait until we're done. I think parts of it obviously I'm not a fan of. But the concept itself, the original intent of D23 as a ultimate Disney fan club that focuses on the history and the little interesting facts in the archives that they share, I'm so thankful that that exists and that they share it with us, and that we have chances to go see things, either archives exhibits at the Destination D or the expos, and various events in between. The magazines are kind of like a glossier version of that. It's
I
more
very
like
much enjoy
the
those.
current iteration, like a Batu or whatever, Frozen. It does combine with whatever the big marketing push
Of course.
is. The expos have a huge, present day marketing synergy situation going on. But I can take that to get all of the other benefits.
Yeah, they do also embrace the past, and they celebrate it even, and they have lots of the panels where they bring in the old Imagineers.
Yeah.
Even just the old retired Imagineers, as well as even the current ones. The most recent one had a nice one with, of course, now I forget his name.
Well, watch our D23 episode. Maybe you mentioned it there.
This is very embarrassing because jeez.
Anyway, it was a good interview, I'm sure.
It really was. Talking about the past, but also the future. But you trot out folks like Tony Baxter. He's just got amazing stories. And just being able to see all of that stuff and the development of all of that and how it kind of enfolded into what we have now.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. So, good one.
Thanks.
I will come up with it.
Short and sweet.
Yep. Okay, my next one, hopefully it'll be short and sweet too, I was just going to say the ride conveyance systems. If you think about, this really happened with the World's Fair, the 1964-65 World's Fair. Disneyland had been open for 9 years before that, but it really wasn't until that fair when they had come up with a couple of really great concepts, including the Omnimover, which it was actually kind of developed with the Ford Magic Skyway, but then in the parks it was developed into Adventure Through Inner Space and the Haunted Mansion, certainly, and it was basically just a way for Disney to be able to direct the whatever that was happening physically, and direct the guest's viewpoint as being able to, now instead of looking over here, we're going to turn you over this way and look over here. So, and they've, if you think about even just the evolution of that, and they've done quite an amazing job with that, with now the Voyage of not the Voyage of the Little Mermaid, what's the Little Mermaid
Ariel's
attraction.
Undersea Adventures or something.
That one.
I don't know. There's two different names. So
yeah, and a lot of the Epcot attractions are the old ones. Horizons. We miss you. But then even the Living Seas, the clam mobiles that they have there.
Yes.
But then also,
sea cabs.
Just with the development of It's a Small World there at the World's Fair, and then the Pirates of the Caribbean, that was a way for them to just be able to pump tons of people through these attractions, because the original idea for Pirates of the Caribbean was to be a walkthrough exhibit.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Or a wax museum. But these boats that they have come up with, which have been used in various attractions since, is just a way. They are people eaters. They are able to get 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 people an hour in there. And if you think of just about all the different ride systems that they have come up with, even since then, with the Star Tours simulator, even Soarin', and that type of, basically all the different ride systems that they've been able to come up with, that, to me, is a hit.
It's a hit. Yeah, it goes back to Imagineering, so, it's all part of
that is true. It is part of Imagineering,
But yeah, I think you said it all. I agree with everything you said. I have nothing to add, except now there's the new trackless ride system in Rise of the Resistance. So there's another one.
Right, and it all began, I think, with Honey's...
Pooh's Honey Hunt.
Pooh's Honey Hunt, which I've done at Tokyo. Aquatopia as well. And, they think Remy's Ratatouille adventure.
Yes. Which we will see.
We will, very soon. All
right. Are we doing a miss again?
Another miss. Hitting a miss.
Okay. This one is probably another quick one. I'm going to say, not necessarily a miss, was Vinylmation's, but things where they try really hard to make a merchandise thing be a hit.
They've done this so many times.
I mean,
and sometimes they've hit.
Yeah, Vinylmation was big for a while, and I am guilty of collecting all of them. They're in a box somewhere in this floor. But yeah, and then it just fizzled out. And remember when D Street first opened at Disney Springs, which was still downtown Disney? That was the west side. Uh-huh. It's not even D Street anymore, right? It's now like the Marvel store or something.
Yeah, it's a completely different thing, yeah.
And that was literally just a Vinylmation store when it opened. And even right after it opened, very soon after, it was like, well, let's throw some merch, some T-shirts and stuff in here.
It started with pins.
Yes.
Which was a huge hit, and I believe still is a huge hit. Probably not as big.
Yeah, and they really
used to be,
officially ended the pin trading thing, but it still happens all the time. And there's still more new pins coming out.
Yeah, there are so many things. If you think about glow with the show ears.
Yes, exactly. That kind of thing. And now we see it all the time with, ear hats, which are a hit, but are they, at what cost are these ear hats coming out? It
is amazing if you think about it. If you go to a theme park and you look at all the people that have paid to get in there, how many of them are wearing some form of Disney hat or Disney ears or something?
It's weird because, like you said the other day, you never used to see that, or maybe I said that, I don't know. But it's funny to just look around and it's just literally everywhere.
Yeah.
And
so some things hit, some things miss. Yeah, Vinylmation. It was.
I was gonna
for a little while
add to this a little tag along, which would be the Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom, which I think was a hit when it came out. Maybe ? I was really into it because I had a little. The kids were younger and Gio was in a stroller. It's still going on. They still, every Halloween party and Christmas party are here's the exclusive Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom card, and people literally just get them to sell on eBay. And does anyone play the game anymore? I don't know.
I don't see people playing it as much as they used to. And I don't even think necessarily all of the particular stations are open that they used to be.
We're going to do a video and check it out. Because back when this happened on Zannaland.com, it's still there, but I haven't updated it because I haven't been there. But I had a whole, sorcerer's guide, basically, because it was a big deal when it came out. And it certainly could be something that they could have changed so many times. It's been out since, what year did that come out? 2000.
Let's see, 9 or 10?
2012.
12,
which
wow.
I thought, I looked it up and that's what they said.
There you go.
They could have had so many new storylines.
Yeah.
Which then you have to worry about I never finished the last one, and it becomes that kind of thing.
They did add that new thing at in the Adventureland. With the
Yes,
the
that's
Pirates,
right, and that is still
Pirates
there.
themed one, and they have the Phineas and Ferb, which is now.
Oh yeah, well it's going to be new on the Play app, I believe, in Epcot. It's now going to be DuckTales, I think.
So they have that. Plus the the Play app has the thing that you do in Batu. There's the Adventure in the Animal Kingdom with the Up characters.
Oh yeah, Wilderness Explorers. Yeah. So there are, I think the original concept obviously was a way to get that amount of people, that group that's interested in that, out of line and doing this instead of.
It's fun, but do you see many people doing that particular one?
I don't
I don't even see people doing the Epcot one much anymore.
Well, I don't know if you can now because everything. Well, no, actually, when we were there to see the Beauty and the Beast preview, there were things happening with the.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe it's still there. I'm not positive, but they are redoing it. So.
Okay.
Anyway, that was the last of my miss. Random merchandise and
here's my next miss, and this might be considered a quibble. I don't know, but this one's going to be Disney's overuse of the A-frame. If they need to convey a little piece of information, let's put up an A-frame. A little, basically, just an A-frame sign that they stick out in the middle of walkways, which to me is, I think, a lazy way of communicating. I know Imagineering has done so many great things with being able to convey things through signs and signology, if you will, but a lot of the operations folks, they just put up an A-frame.
Yeah.
As a way of just, and so there's just A-frames left and right. Like, go this way for this, that way for that.
And some are better than
this is
others.
Closed. Yeah.
Some are more themed than others.
And some are just not themed at all. Let's just put up an A-frame.
Yeah.
To me, it's lazy.
I think that would then link into another miss, which would be the lack of communication and connection between teams and departments, like from Imagineering down the line to operations.
Yep.
Yeah.
And as I said, this could be considered just, you're just an old man quibbling with things that are happening. But
that goes back to there's different types of vacationers or Disney parks visitors, and we are, of course, nerds and purists. And for the most part, I mean, I will wear some, ear hats every now and then and all that stuff. But for the most part, nomenclature and, theming and all of that stuff, we're sticklers for that.
It's important, in my opinion.
Yeah, because seeing an A-frame or whatever pulls you out of the story and the theme.
It does.
And isn't that why we're all here in the parks?
Yeah. Okay, so that was a quick one, but I just wanted to throw that one out.
All right.
Let's go back to a nice hit.
Let's see. This is my last one.
What?
Yeah, this is my fifth one because I combined the monorails with the hotels. So.
Uh-oh.
And that's going to be, I mean, we can make this quick. It's no one thinks this is a miss, I don't think, but Disney Cruise Line.
Ooh. Which
debuted in 98, 97? I forget when I sailed on the first one.
The
something
magic.
Like that. I'm trying to remember because that's back when I was like a regular travel agent and I went on the inaugural cruises and all that stuff. So I don't know if it was like preview cruises or the real thing, but I'm pretty sure it was 98 because
that was my first time.
Anyway, I think it's a great addition, a great concept. Disney certainly has spoiled us for all of their cruise lines.
I mean, they've taken something that was a common thing, a cruise, but then they put the Disney twist on it, and they've added so many of their own twists that have either become the industry standard or have just set Disney apart, including like rotational dining.
Yeah, exactly.
And other things. I mean, they took away the casinos.
Yes.
Smoking.
Yeah.
And all of that.
The little bathrooms where you have the sink outside.
Oh, yeah.
And the toilet and the bathtub
separating
and the other thing.
separating the bathroom. Yeah,
I forget what that's called.
The toilet.
Yeah, all good things. It's more expensive, but in many ways, I think it's worth it because it's just the overall feeling you get on there. It's a good time.
Plus, they have their own island.
Well, a lot of cruise lines have their own island.
Well, a lot of cruise lines have their own island, but aren't able to park at it.
That's
and they
true.
have to tender over to them.
Yes.
Disney bought
and they
Castaway
certainly,
Key, which is wonderful.
Yeah, and they certainly upped the entertainment quality.
Yeah,
people used to and still do make fun of cruise line entertainment, but even especially in recent years, Disney has really added Broadway quality.
Yeah.
So,
and the dining, of course.
And the dining is good too. Yes. So that's it. Those are all my hits. There's no more hits.
No more hits
in all of Disney parks.
Like 7 more. Okay. Here's
a good one.
You. Disney expanding their parks worldwide. Not just Disneyland and Disney World, but going overseas.
This is going to go well with my next miss.
Wait. What?
Go ahead.
Because just basically bringing their parks out to places like Tokyo and Paris. They have not been perfect, but I guess in Tokyo it pretty much has been, in my opinion. But I was also going to combine this with especially their partnership with the Oriental Land Company has just been a huge hit, and just their standards as far as friendliness, cleanliness, basically redoing each of the attraction whenever they need to. Yeah. Having a very set schedule to make sure that everything is refurbished and done very nicely. And all of their new attractions, it's just phenomenal. And it's just so clean and friendly. And to me, especially the ones in Tokyo, perfection. Now, the one that went to Paris, there was a lot of... That
was a weird time, I think.
That was a weird time. Overall, I do like it. I think it's fun. It's a beautiful park, in my opinion.
And they're redoing the whole studios now, so who knows what that'll turn into. It is fun to be
able to see just a lot of different versions of that.
Yes.
With different languages. And, their castle is beautiful and all of that.
Sophia just came back from Disneyland Paris, and she was not a fan. But she was there by herself.
Not the hugest
it was
Disney
cold,
fan amongst us.
And she was, I think she likes the parks and stuff like that. But she's not as into them as we all are. But I think if we were with her, it would have been, not to toot our own horn, but we would have made it more fun.
Yes. And I would say even just the additions at Hong Kong and Shanghai, which are going through a tough time right now, both having just been closed.
Yes.
But, they've done some really great things, if you ask me.
Yeah, and going back to the refurbishment schedule, just really quick, when we were on the most recent resort tour, we got to see so many refurbished rooms, and they really do now have a schedule of I think there was a while there that they just let things go. And I'm hoping that this is not just lip service that we got on this tour, but that they really are going to keep up with refurbishments and keep it up to date. Because I think there's so many hotels in the area that are, cheaper and you get more. Okay. But anyway, as I was saying, this kind of leads into my last miss,
I'm
which
intrigued.
Is also expansion, but expansion without proper infrastructure.
That's a very valid point.
So they've done all of these new hotels over the years, all of these new attractions, all of these promotions and marketing blitzes and everything to come to the parks. And then the buses, you sometimes have to wait
monorails.
45 minutes for a bus or something. And the monorails are in desperate need of updating and refurbishment and maintenance, things like that. I think, as you said earlier, the Skyliner is a great addition.
Yeah, because that takes a bunch of the buses off the roads.
Right. And they even have said in the Pop Century and Art of Animation, I'm not sure if that's still there, but like a couple weeks ago, they had an A-frame out that said the bus service there was only going to be one bus per hour because they wanted people to use the Skyliner. And if you think
about just the Art of Animation and Pop Century are some of the hotels that have the most amount of rooms, and the Caribbean Beach as well. And so it services a lot of folks to those two parks. If you ask me, I think they might expand that to the All-Stars.
I hope that they do.
That would be a really good move.
Yeah.
Because there's so many rooms there. And being able to do that to at least two of the parks, or maybe Animal Kingdom, to the front of Animal Kingdom, since you're all out that way, that would take even more buses off the roads.
And I think it's a little scary for some people that, may not be used to or want to. But it's not like it's a new technology. It's been around forever.
Yeah.
Not forever, but, a long time.
A very long time.
And it's not like Disney created the Skyliner. It has existed and they've just brought it here. And so I think it's a good addition, but I think they need to do more of that preemptive planning before they expand or do marketing pushes as they have done, because there's more and more people coming, and now they're trying to counteract that with more expensive pricing and upcharges and add-ons, and it's not really deterring people from coming. So it's a lot of people. And I'm done. I have no more misses.
I will add another quick miss, I think. And that's just, I think the character meet and greets have become incredibly popular. And a lot of people, they plan their vacations all around them. But I think they've become very regimented in a way. And not so much like they used to do at Disneyland, where they would just be very impromptu meet and greets, where where characters would literally just be found on the streets. Go ahead.
Well, I think that Galaxy's Edge is changing that.
That is true.
Because
I'll give you that.
Rey and Chewbacca and the girl that's the spy, I always forget her name. V, I think.
Yes.
Oh, that's going to bug me. I'm sorry.
Is it V? I know it's V.
Vi? No, it's not Vi.
It's spelled
This is dumb.
V.
Anyway, you know who I mean. Those interactions are all unique and all they're not scheduled.
Yes.
They're just whenever they happen to appear.
And that's the way that they should be.
Yeah.
In my
Well,
opinion.
I think because Walt Disney World Resort is so much bigger, and there's so many people that, like you said, come here just to meet the characters sometimes, or at least they're forced to by their parents.
Yep.
They had no choice but to funnel Mickey and Minnie and princess,
And
very
they
popular
have a way
princesses
of doing
away.
that where they were able to get so many people to get through, like the Mickey Mouse meet and greet on Main Street, as well as the princess one.
And Anna and Elsa, they certainly created a lovely home for them over in Norway.
Yes, they have. The Sommerhus or Sommerhus.
Yeah. So it is interesting. I understand what you mean, but I think hopefully things are changing. I don't know if Magic Kingdom will ever be Disneyland, as where like Peter Pan can just wander around.
I mean, a lot of people I think would actually call this a plus or a hit, if you will. The thing that I'm calling a miss. I just prefer the more just like a very surprise meet that just happens like as you're walking from here to there, and just, oh my gosh, there's these characters here that are literally walking with you or whatever. Some of them even ride the attractions out there. So to me, that's a lot more fun than scheduling time to, it's going to take 40 minutes to go through this meet and greet experience. Okay, let's hop in this line and do that.
Yes.
And then, they're trying to get people in and out of there. So they probably are able to have some special one-on-one time with them. But I don't know. This is probably, once again, just a minor quibble.
Well, I think it depends on, who you are going there and why who you're going to the parks with. It is V or Vi Moradi.
Yeah.
Was the spy. I thought it was Vi.
I knew it was spelled the one way.
It's V-I. Anyway.
Yeah. I just didn't know how that's pronounced.
She's a fun character interaction.
A lot of times you'll even find her in the actual queue of Rise of the Resistance, trying to escape the stormtroopers. And Kylo Ren too.
Yeah, Kylo Ren too. I think that will wrap up this first foray into hits and misses at Disney parks.
Yeah, I did have more, but that's okay. I can save them.
Save them for next time, because I think we're going to hopefully let us know. What are your hits and misses? Did you disagree with us? Are you a super big fan of the dining plan or fast passes, or
a lot of the
character meet and greets?
They
could be hits for other people. But
as I said, that with that last one, I think it's a hit for a lot of people.
Yeah.
To me, it's a miss.
Yeah, so let us know in the comments to the blog post accompanying this on Twitter, Facebook, anywhere you want, YouTube. You can, of course, watch this on YouTube if you aren't already.
Yes, please.
Or you can watch it again if you are already. Subscribe and give us a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts if you like. So hopefully more people will find us and can be mad about our choices too. Thanks for joining us up the waterfall.
Bye now.